In the silent cradle of the cosmos, amid the cold, indifferent stars, a question as ancient as curiosity itself stirs the human mind. Where is everyone? For all the centuries spent peering into the night, for every radio dish tuned to the cosmic static, for each telescope trained on distant suns, the universe offers no reply. The paradox is almost cruel in its simplicity. Trillions of planets, billions of galaxies, and yet, as far as we can tell, only us, whispering into the void. It is here, in the uneasy quiet between expectation and emptiness, that the shadow of the great filter rises, a hypothesis as chilling as it is profound, suggesting that a hidden wall, somewhere along the path from stardust to starfarer, snuffs out most aspiring civilizations before they can spread among the stars. The term itself is young, first crystallized in the 1990s by economist Robin Hanson, but the anxiety beneath it is far older, echoing in the Fermi Paradox, in Drake's equation, in the fevered imaginings of philosophers and scientists alike. The great filter is no mere cosmic speed bump. It is a potentially insurmountable barrier, an unseen gauntlet that could lie behind us, meaning that our existence is miraculous, or more ominously, ahead, waiting to test whether humanity too will vanish into silent oblivion. To understand the gravity of the great filter, one must first untangle the chain of improbabilities that lead from lifeless matter to a civilization capable of altering worlds. The filter posits that somewhere along this chain, a sequence of steps including abiogenesis, complex multicellularity, intelligence, technological civilization, and the ability to survive one's own technological adolescence, there exists a bottleneck so narrow that almost no one passes through. It is a hypothesis pregnant with implications, each more unsettling than the last, for it frames humanity's progress as a roll of cosmic dice, with the odds perhaps stacked against us from the very beginning. The narrative of the filter is not merely a tale of extinction, but of possibility, of hope and dread entwined. It is a prism through which we might view our own trajectory, a lens that sharpens the stakes of every advance and misstep. The question is not just whether we are alone, but whether we can survive the journey to become something more than a brief flicker in the dark. To answer this, we must journey through the landscape of theory, inference, and evidence, tracing each step where the filter might lie, and what that means for the fragile future of Homo sapiens. The earliest candidate for the filter lies at the very beginning, the leap from inanimate chemistry to the first self-replicating molecules. Abiogenesis, that primordial spark, remains one of science's deepest mysteries. Despite decades of research, no laboratory has yet conjured life from non-life, though experiments like Stanley Miller's famous 1953 flask have shown how amino acids might form from simple gases. The sheer improbability of this event, occurring perhaps only once in the 4.5 billion year history of Earth, has led some to suggest that the filter is here, that life, even primitive life, is vanishingly rare. Yet the counterpoint echoes from the rocks. Earth's oldest fossils, stromatolites dating back 3.5 billion years, hint that life began almost as soon as conditions permitted. If life arises quickly given the right circumstances, perhaps the filter lies not in abiogenesis but in the next great leap, the emergence of complex multicellular organisms. For billions of years, Earth was ruled by bacteria and archaea, simple cells that changed little as eons passed. The transition to eukaryotic life, with its membrane-bound organelles and genetic complexity, may have been an extraordinarily unlikely accident, perhaps occurring only once in Earth's history. The merging of two prokaryotes, one engulfing the other to form the first mitochondrion, was a singular event, and without it, all animals, plants, and fungi might never have existed. This is the first of many improbable steps, each a potential filter, each a narrowing of possibility. The Cambrian explosion, 541 million years ago, unleashed a riot of new body plans, but for every lineage that flourished, countless others vanished. Intelligence itself, the hallmark of our species, is a latecomer, emerging only in the last few million years, a blink in the cosmic eye. The vast majority of Earth's history was lived without minds capable of reflection, invention, or regret. If intelligence is not an inevitable outcome, but rather a fluke, then the filter may have already claimed most worlds. But suppose, as some argue, that life, complexity, and intelligence are not so rare. The true filter, then, may lie ahead, hidden in the treacherous passage from technological adolescence to maturity. Civilizations that reach the point of wielding nuclear weapons, of altering their own climate, of engineering artificial intelligences, may be uniquely vulnerable to self-destruction. Carl Sagan, reflecting on the Cold War's nuclear brinkmanship, warned that the technological powers that elevate a species also threaten its annihilation. The silence of the stars, in this view, is not an accident, it is a graveyard. Here the great filter becomes a mirror, reflecting our own choices back at us with unsettling clarity. The invention of nuclear weapons in 1945 was a turning point, inaugurating the so-called Great Silence era, where humanity gained the power to end itself. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 brought the world to the edge of oblivion, averted only by a handful of decisions made in the heat of uncertainty. The subsequent decades have seen other existential risks multiply: runaway climate change, biotechnology, artificial superintelligence, all potential filters that could choke off civilization before it can reach the stars. Yet there is a deeper, more insidious possibility that the filter is not a single event, but a cumulative series of challenges, each thinning the ranks of would-be interstellar species until only the luckiest or wisest remain. In this perspective, the filter is woven through the fabric of evolution and history, a gauntlet of trials that must all be passed, with no guarantee of success. To peer into the darkness between the stars is to confront the paradox of our own existence. The detection of thousands of exoplanets by missions such as Kepler and TESS has revealed a universe teeming with worlds, some rocky, some watery, some basking in the warmth of yellow suns. The ingredients for life are everywhere: water, carbon, energy. The odds at first glance seem to favor abundance, yet the sky remains mute. The SETI Institute's radio telescopes, from Frank Drake's Project Ozma in 1960 to the Allen Telescope Array today, have found only silence. The Arecibo message, beamed in 1974 to the globular cluster M13, has yet to provoke a reply. This silence is itself data, a negative result that haunts the corridors of astrobiology. If life is common, if civilizations arise with regularity, then why do we not see them? Where are the von Neumann probes, the self-replicating machines that could, in theory, colonize the galaxy in a few million years? Where are the Dyson spheres, the vast megastructures that would betray the presence of star-harvesting civilizations? The absence of such signs, in a universe old enough to have hosted many waves of expansion, is the heart of the Fermi Paradox and the impetus for the Great Filter. Some theorists propose that advanced civilizations, rather than destroying themselves, simply lose interest in expansion, turning inward to virtual realities or post-biological existence. Others suggest that the galaxy is not empty, but quarantined, that a zoo hypothesis is in effect, with older civilizations deliberately hiding their presence from us. Still others posit that we are simply too early, that the galaxy is in its quiet youth, and the great flowering of intelligence is yet to come. Yet for many, the most parsimonious explanation remains the most unsettling, that something, somewhere, culls civilizations before they can make their mark on the universe. The filter could be a rare event, like a gamma-ray burst sterilizing a planet's surface, or a slow, inexorable process, like the gradual loss of atmosphere to space. It could be self-inflicted, the result of short-sightedness or hubris, or imposed from without, the result of cosmic hazards beyond any species' control. If the filter lies behind us, if the improbable steps are already past, then our existence is a triumph, a beacon of hope that we may yet endure. If it lies ahead, then every advance is fraught with peril, every new technology a double-edged sword. The stakes could not be higher, for the filter is not just about the fate of others, but about our own survival. The search for answers has taken many forms. In the realm of astrobiology, the study of extremophiles, organisms thriving in boiling acid, deep within Earth's crust, or inside nuclear reactors, has expanded our understanding of what life can endure. Missions to Mars, Europa, and Enceladus seek signs of past or present life, clues that could hint at the ubiquity or rarity of biology in the cosmos. Each discovery recalibrates our sense of where the filter might lie. In the laboratory, researchers like Jack Szostak and Gerald Joyce have pushed the boundaries of abiogenesis, coaxing simple molecules into forms that mimic the first steps of life. The RNA world hypothesis, suggesting that life began as self-replicating RNA strands, offers a plausible pathway, but the precise mechanisms remain elusive. If life is easy to start, perhaps the filter is further along. The fossil record, too, offers tantalizing hints. For billions of years, Earth's biosphere was dominated by microbes, with complex multicellularity arising only around 600 million years ago. The rarity of this transition has led scientists like Nick Lane to argue that the leap to eukaryotes was the hardest step of all, a bottleneck that may have filtered out most potential biospheres. The evolution of intelligence is another puzzle. On Earth, only one lineage, ours, has developed the capacity for technology. The octopus, the raven, the elephant, and the dolphin all display remarkable intelligence, yet none have built radio telescopes or spacecraft. The evolutionary pressures that favored our brains may be rare, contingent on a myriad of factors: climate instability, tool use, social complexity. If true, the filter may be the leap from clever animal to technological species. But perhaps the most urgent questions cluster around the dangers posed by our own creations. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen humanity acquire powers once reserved for gods: the ability to split the atom, to edit genes, to build machines that think. Each advance brings new risks: nuclear war, engineered pandemics, runaway artificial intelligence. The philosopher Nick Bostrom has cataloged these existential risks, warning that even a single failure could doom our species. The silence of the cosmos, in this view, is a warning. Most civilizations do not survive their technological adolescence. Yet there is hope too in the very act of reflection. The capacity to recognize existential risk, to imagine futures both dark and bright, may be the first step in passing through the filter. The fact that we debate these questions, that we build safeguards, that we strive to understand our place in the universe, is itself a sign of resilience. The Great Filter is not merely a scientific puzzle, but a philosophical mirror, forcing us to confront the fragility and preciousness of conscious life. It asks us to reckon with the odds, to weigh the risks, to cherish the improbable spark that has brought us this far. It invites humility, for we may be the exception in a universe mostly silent, or the rule in a cosmos where the next filter awaits. The story of the filter is written in the language of probability, yet it is lived in the choices of individuals and societies. The Cuban Missile Crisis is not just a historical footnote, but a case study in how close we have come to extinction. The stewardship of our planet's climate, the governance of emerging technologies, the cultivation of global cooperation, all these are threads in the tapestry of our survival. Looking outward, the search for extraterrestrial life continues. The James Webb Space Telescope, launched in 2021, peers into the atmospheres of distant exoplanets, searching for the telltale signs of life: oxygen, methane, water vapor. The discovery of even a single biosignature would upend our assumptions, suggesting that life is common and the filter lies elsewhere. The detection of a technosignature, a radio signal, a waste heat signature, a megastructure, would be even more momentous, for it would mean that at least one other civilization has survived the gauntlet. The debates rage on. Some, like Paul Davies, argue that the universe may be teeming with life, but that intelligence is a rare and fleeting phenomenon. Others, like Stephen Webb, suggest that we may simply be missing the signs, that our methods are too crude, our assumptions too parochial. Still others, like Anders Sandberg, model the probabilities and conclude that the filter, if it exists, is likely ahead. The search for the filter is, in a sense, the search for ourselves. It is the quest to understand what it means to be a technological species, to grapple with the responsibility that comes with power. It is the recognition that the universe owes us nothing, that our survival is neither assured nor impossible. In the end, the Great Filter is both a warning and an opportunity. It reminds us that the future is not written, that the silence of the stars is both a challenge and a gift. It urges us to tread carefully, to value wisdom over hubris, to build a civilization worthy of enduring. For if we are to pass through the filter, to join the company of the stars, we must first survive ourselves. Let us then walk the path with eyes open, with humility and courage, with wonder for the improbable miracle of consciousness. The filter may be behind us, or it may lie ahead. But as long as we endure, as long as we strive, as long as we ask the ancient questions beneath the indifferent stars, we keep the possibility of greatness alive. And that, perhaps, is the most profound hope of all. As the pale blue dot spins on, cocooned by its fragile atmosphere, humanity stands at the threshold of possibility, both haunted and inspired by the silence that surrounds us. The great filter, whether it be a distant memory or an imminent challenge, is not merely a barrier, but a call to wisdom, a reminder that, in the vastness of space and the deep river of time, the chance to become more than a fleeting spark is both our burden and our gift. Consider for a moment the tapestry of life's history on Earth, the mass extinctions that have swept the planet clean, the improbable survivors that have inherited the ashes, the random mutations that have opened new doors. The Permian-Triassic extinction, 252 million years ago, erased more than 90% of marine species, a cataclysm so profound that the world itself seemed to start anew. The Chicxulub impact, 66 million years ago, ended the reign of dinosaurs and paved the way for mammals to rise. Each of these events could be seen as a filter, a roll of the dice that could have ended differently. In the grand scheme, the evolution of Homo sapiens is a recent, precarious event. For most of our history, we were not masters of the world, but survivors, hunter-gatherers eking out an existence on the margins, vulnerable to drought, disease, and predation. The development of language, the control of fire, the invention of tools, each was a leap, a narrowing of the possible futures. The rise of agriculture, the birth of cities, the emergence of writing, these too were filters, cultural as much as biological. It is easy to forget how contingent our present is, how many branches of possibility were pruned by chance and necessity. The invention of the printing press, the scientific revolution, the industrial age, each opened new vistas, but also new risks. The Anthropocene, the epoch defined by human impact on the planet, is both a triumph and a warning. We are the first species with the power to alter the biosphere at will, and perhaps the last to do so unwittingly. The Great Filter, then, is not just a distant event, but a pattern woven through history, a series of crucibles that test the resilience, adaptability, and wisdom of life. The concept echoes in the writings of Peter Ward and Donald Brownlee, whose rare Earth hypothesis suggests that complex life may be uncommon, dependent on a host of unlikely factors: a stable star, a large moon to stabilize axial tilt, plate tectonics to recycle carbon, a magnetic field to shield from radiation. Each requirement is a gate, a narrowing of possibility, a step in the gauntlet. Yet for all the improbabilities, here we are, conscious, curious, capable of asking the question. The very act of pondering the filter is evidence of passing many trials. The challenge now is to recognize that the journey is far from over. The future, as always, is uncertain. The risks we face are daunting, but not insurmountable. Nuclear weapons remain a threat, their arsenals maintained by uneasy treaties and fragile trust. Climate change accelerates, altering weather patterns, raising seas, threatening food security. Biotechnology offers the promise of healing and the peril of engineered plagues. Artificial intelligence, still in its infancy, holds the potential for both unprecedented prosperity and existential danger. The lessons of the filter are clear. Wisdom must keep pace with power. The survival of our species depends not just on technological prowess, but on foresight, cooperation, and restraint. The institutions we build, the values we cultivate, the choices we make, these are the tools with which we carve our path through the filter. There are hopeful signs. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, though imperfect, has limited the spread of doomsday arsenals. The Montreal Protocol, signed in 1987, reversed the destruction of the ozone layer, a rare victory for global environmental stewardship. The Paris Agreement, though under strain, represents a collective effort to confront climate change. The nascent field of AI alignment seeks to ensure that artificial minds, should they arise, are safe and beneficial. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, too, has become more sophisticated. The Breakthrough Listen initiative, launched in 2015 with $100 million in funding, scans the skies for signals across a wide range of frequencies. The study of technosignatures, indicators of advanced technology, such as atmospheric pollutants, city lights, or waste heat, has expanded the toolkit of astrobiology. Each new method, each new discovery, is a step toward understanding where the filter may lie. The detection of life elsewhere, even in microbial form, would be a watershed moment. The discovery of independent life on Mars, Europa, or Enceladus would suggest that biology is common, that the early steps are easy. The detection of a civilization, however faint or distant, would be more momentous still, a sign that at least some have passed through the gauntlet. But until such evidence arrives, we remain in the dark, forced to reason from a single data point: ourselves. The anthropic principle looms large. We can only observe a universe compatible with our existence, making it difficult to infer the odds. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, yet the silence is hard to ignore. The filter, then, is a prod to humility. It reminds us that the universe may not be teeming with life, that our existence may be a rare and precious anomaly. It calls us to stewardship, to treat the future as a responsibility, not a birthright. It urges us to build a civilization worthy of enduring, to cherish the fragile light of consciousness in a sea of darkness. To look up at the stars is to be reminded of both our insignificance and our potential. The atoms of our bodies were forged in ancient supernovae, scattered across space, gathered into worlds shaped by time and chance. The story of life is a story of improbable survival, of resilience in the face of catastrophe, of hope in the shadow of extinction. The Great Filter is both a puzzle and a prophecy. It is a challenge to transcend our limitations, to build a future that is not cut short by folly or fate. It is a reminder that the stakes are nothing less than everything, that the difference between survival and extinction may hinge on choices made in boardrooms, laboratories, and halls of power. The journey is not over. The filter may be behind us, or it may lie ahead. But as long as we endure, as long as we strive, as long as we ask the ancient questions, we keep the possibility of greatness alive. Let us then move forward with humility and courage, with wonder and resolve. The universe is silent, but not indifferent. The future is unwritten, but not foreclosed. The filter is a warning, but also an invitation, to become more than a fleeting spark, to join the company of the stars, to write a story worthy of the cosmos that gave us birth. In the end, the meaning of the filter is not just in the odds, but in the choices we make, in the wisdom we cultivate, in the hope we nurture, in the future we build together. The silence of the stars is both a challenge and a gift. It is up to us to answer. As the last echoes of this reflection fade into the night, the pale blue dot spins on, cradling the only known spark of consciousness in a vast and silent universe. The Great Filter, whether a distant memory or an imminent challenge, is not merely a barrier, but a call to wisdom, to stewardship, to hope. For as long as we wonder, as long as we strive, as long as we endure, the possibility of greatness remains. And that, perhaps, is the most profound hope of all.